Hello and welcome back to a new section in our tutorial for, well, I wouldn't say a tutorial, it's a code along, I would say, for a factory game. Now, if you remember, if you've watched all the other videos, if not, you're probably best to go back and look at them. Don't get me wrong, they're a bit long, but I felt it was better to go into detail of what I was doing for those that don't quite understand the logic I was implying, rather than just saying do this, do this, do this, do this. I tried to explain why. If you think that's a good idea, put a message in the comments. If you think it's too much, put something in the comments. I would like to know, because I'd like to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. So anyway, so what are we going to do in the next stage? Well, I think we should carry on with our tool, our making of a tool. And the next tool I think we should make is something to place buildings, or I wouldn't exactly call that a building, or utility building, I suppose. It's a static generator, it's not a portable one, so maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, so it's a build tool, we'll call it. Yeah. Now obviously we've got our cabling tool, which does all this. Well, it doesn't do a lot, to be honest. It does what it needs to do to create cables. So we should be able to use our tool base. So let's close all these down for now. So let's get rid of all these. Generator, we'll leave the first person character open in case. We don't need the cable, we don't need that enum, we don't need the field light, and we don't need the electrical connector open at the moment. So okay, we need to figure out how we're going to allow our character to communicate where it wants to build things. So first thing we'll do is come to our main content, into blueprints, and into tools, because it's going to be a tool. We're going to leave the base tool here. The cable tool, I need to get rid of this old one. Don't think we're using it anymore, so let's delete it. Just reference as a blueprint. Yeah, it's nothing there. Delete. The power shouldn't be in there either. That's that we'll just drag into blueprints for now. Come back into tools, and we'll put our cabling tool inside there. And then just going to go to the content and just fix up redirectors, just to make sure everything's referenced properly, because we've just moved a few things around. So our player can create buildings. So we'll create a new tool. Let's go back in here into blueprints and tools. So we are going to create a child class from our tool class, because then, yeah, it's another tool. Now, how did we just double check how we named it? BPC tool cabling. So this one's going to be BPC tool. Let's just delete this, and we'll call this builder. So it's a build tool. So we'll create a new folder, and we'll call this a builder. Sounds a bit odd. Might just call it build tool. BBC tool builder. So we now have a new tool. So let's open this up, and let's park that up there. And it's the same as every other tool. We get the base stuff from the base class. So if we open the base class, just to remind ourselves what the base class did, and open this up. So all these things here, which at the moment is only activated, I don't think we did anything else. We did have some debug stuff for traces, and we will be using traces in the build tool, obviously. So yeah, we'll be using these as usual. And the names, there will be some extra stuff in here that I'll need to add, but we'll get to that a bit later at another time, because I think what we'll do is we'll deal with the kind of a build tool, And then we'll probably look at the HUD class, and we'll have a look at how we can start looking at things on the screen so we can see what we're doing just that little bit more. So like when we've got the electrical icon, maybe that icon will not just be for electrical, maybe we can change the image in that to assign that it's the build tool and that it's, you know, it's in a valid build position. So it could be a number of different things depending on the tool in use. So we're in the build tool. So what we're going to need to do, well, we're going to need to do another trace, aren't we? Because we want to basically get our character, let's just play, and we want to look around and we want to shoot a trace to build somewhere, yeah? And what are we going to do? Are we going to make it so we can build anywhere? Maybe, I don't know. That may be an option. But ideally I want to build to a grid. Now if we use the default grid, it'll be a lot easier for us to visualize it whilst testing as well. And then what we can do is start making buildings that correspond to the Unreal grid. It will make things so much easier, so much easier. But you've got to bear in mind your grid size for your different size buildings. So, you know, does this one occupy a different size grid to, say, a refinery? I would say so. But the snapping could be the same. So if this was one that snaps in a 1 meter cube, we could still snap the refinery in a 1 meter cube, but it will have to query the whole area that it fits into. If you understand what I mean by query, just checking the ground to make sure that nothing's in those slots. Yeah, so there's a number of different ways we could probably do that. I think ideally buildings should be on a grid basis, and we store the location of them in some sort of array, which will probably be in the game instance, but we'll reach that eventually. Let's just start with the basics. Let's come out of here. So what we want to do is we want to be able to fire a trace that hits something that is allowed to be built on. Now there's an easy way to do this. Rather than querying every single object you hit, we can just tell what we're allowed to hit. Much simpler. So how we do this, we come into the edit project settings, and then you want to look and type in for the word trace. And if you scroll down a little, oh no, it's here at the top. It's just because there's nothing here, it didn't show. You're allowed to have 18 custom channels for object or trace channels. Now this is an object channel, sorry, a trace channel, but it's between object and trace channels, so a maximum of 18 between them. So you can have 9 of one and 9 of the other, or 10 of one and 8 of the other, but you can't have 10 of one and 10 of the other. Must be a maximum of 18. We're going to create a new trace channel, okay, and we're going to call this build allowed. Yep. And we want to block this only when we hit something that's build allowed, so everything must be set to ignore. You'll see why in a minute. So basically click accept. We've created a new trace that we can use in our trace, and every single object will get a default of ignore. Okay, close that. So if we come to, say, this here, our Jenny, and if we type in collision, and it's using the active default, let's come into our actual blueprint for the Jenny. I know we're going off on a little bit here, but there we go. And we type collision in here. Oh, sorry, need to select the actual object. It's only an example. I can't even get things right already. So, so we have collisions, and this is block all dynamic, but that's the standard that's set to most things that are actors and that, because you want to be able to walk into them. So everything is blocked. But as we've created this new channel, can you see it appeared here under trace responses? It's ignoring our it's ignoring our trace that we want to use for building, and that's because we don't want to build on top. That may change later on, but right now I don't want to build on top of things. I just want to be able to build where I want them to build. Now that could be a number of things. Let's go back to the world. That could be a landscape, but as you see here, we created just a solid cube, and the solid cube is not a landscape. That's why I created the trace. It's so I can tell individual object types or actors or landscapes, anything I want that they can take a hit trace, whether it's allowed to return an answer to a valid build location. Now there's two ways we're going to do this. We can store all the builds in an array like I did mention, but as we're going to do a collision check on other static items in the world, it might just be simpler just to check the area within the bounds of the object to make sure that there's no static items like rocks, you know, cliffs or anything like that that's slightly overhang or overlap. That's going to be a bit more complex, and that's going to be a little bit more further down the line. For now, what we're going to probably do is just make sure there's no collision with the object we're trying to place and the actual bounds of the object. But it's detecting other things is going to be quite difficult, but not hard. Yeah, we can do it. So I've selected our ground cube, so click on it, and we come down, and in collision again, it's using the collision default here. So collision preset, custom, and then expand. So here we go. So it's ignoring our build allowed, but we want this ground to block it, yeah, because we want our trace to go into this and block, but we don't want our trace to go into this generator here. I don't want that to return a trace hit. So I hope you understand that. So now, because that by default these are set to ignore, they won't return a trace, but because this is set to block, this will return a trace. So we'll show that now in action. So we will get to our new tool. So let's close that. That was just for an example. We don't need the base. That just to show you our activated, inactivated, and all our tools. Okay, so in our BBC tool builder, first, before we create the trace, let's do our config. And so we've got a name. This will be building tool, and the tooltip for it when you hover over will be and other static, just in case we use it for anything else. So basically all I've put in there is tool for the placement of buildings and other static objects. So that's all we need to do. We haven't got an icon or anything like that. Compile. We don't need to set the HUD widget for this because it's set at runtime. I don't know if you remember, if you hit play and if we come to our first person character and come down to the cabling tool, see how it's set our HUD. Now just watch this, just to show you why I made it so modular. If I come to my first person character and we're going to add a BPC builder and just compile and save, come back in, hit play, and now if we come to our first person character, has a builder tool, and that too automatically gets the HUD, so that now can communicate with the HUD because we automatically set it up, didn't we, in the base class. So there we go, automatic. It's great. Don't we just love things that work out? So far so good. I've got all this in my head. I haven't actually got anything written down, so it could so easily go wrong, couldn't it? So what we're going to do, we need to perform a trace. So we're going to do a function like usual, and we're going to call this trace build position. So this is going to do a build position. Yeah, it's going to find out where the trace is and whether it's okay to build there. Yeah. At the moment, we're going to need two outputs. So we're going to need valid, again, like we did last time. And we're also going to need transform. I'm going to call it transform for now because we're going to store a rotation in here as well. So if we change that to type of transform, we need to store a rotation as well as a location. Because when we build, it needs to check where we are, check what the rotation of the build is, so that when we return it, we can spawn the character, well, sorry, the building at the exact position at the correct rotation. Because what we could do is we could have a 90-degree rotator on it, so we can click a key, rotate round 90 degrees each time, and it might not be valid once it's been rotated. So that's what we need to check for, and that's what we need to return. So how's this going to work? So we need to perform a line trace. So let's just open up our, don't know why I went up there, falling back up there. Let's just open back up our cabling tool, just open it. And we did a line trace in here, didn't we? And it was called find target. And we did it in steps. So first thing we did was just perform a trace. Now this code is reusable. So the chances are now what I might do is I might put this code into a function within the base tool. So what that means is every time I want to use a trace, then we can just reuse this code. Yeah, so let's get back into, I know this is becoming a little bit long-winded and you probably want to get into it, so yeah, I want to know how to do this. So I hope this is not annoying you. I think this good practice is always best to follow. So if we come into here, that's why I'm going to do this now. So we can now create within here a function, and we're going to call that this player trace. Now we already know our debug information, so we can grab all of this, and we also know our trace distance, so we can also do that. So that can be set in the tool. So all we need is a way of tracing. So let's come back into our cabling, and let's just, for now, let's just copy this. I'm not going to take it off there yet, and then we're going to paste it here. There we go. So, and we'll hook that up to there. So this function now is performing the same trace we did before. Don't know why this all balances off when it does this. And it allows us now to perform this trace without having to have it individually in each tool. So that means we're just saving the code and making it reusable. We could go one step further and have it as a base class within the player, so it's only ever called once and we just reference it. But rather than mess about, let's just put it in the tool, and it just gives it a bit more flexibility over it as well, and less trying to trace back where we've got our trace coming from. Oh, there's so many traces in that. Okay, so we need an extra input into this. So what is that extra input? We'll add it in here, and it's going to be we'll put player trace channel. I don't want to repeat username variable names. So this here, if you just hover over the pin, it tells you what kind of type this is. So this is an eTrace type query enum. Yeah. So that's what we want to set to this here. So change the type to eType trace. Oh, let's just put trace in. There we go. So eTrace type, not eType trace, eTrace type query. Okay, we're inputting that in. So save and compile that. For some reason the debug trace style here is none. Is there a problem with that? Am I not getting this information? Could not find variable by debug trace style. Well, what's this then? Why is that not? I'm not understanding why that's done that. Debug tracer style. Oh, hold on. Have we? See, there we go. We're already confusing ourselves. We've got it as a local variable. Yeah, there it is. So we're going to copy that. So you can right click, copy, bring that into our tool base. Local variables. Paste variable. Oh, paste local variable. Delete that one. Sorry about that. So there we go. Oh, it's deleted the bit of code there as well. Did I do that by mistake? Debug trace style. So bring that out, attach that to there, and that to there, and that was what was going into there, and the debug trace style into there. All the variables have disappeared, haven't they? That's fine. So our debug trace style, we'll just drag it down rather than plug it in there. And we've also got our debug trace duration into there. And we ignore self, that's fine. And what else did we have on here? We had this debug trace style none. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I get what I've done that now. So we just set it, and then we do another set again on there, but with no input, and then we just drag that back to there. That's it. So basically it sets the variable whether it's got the debug trace style or not, and then sets it there. So we're back to where we was. So there we go, nice and clean. There's nothing else missing, so basically we get the same trace here. Yeah. Okay, now what do we need to return? Now, judging by this one, all we need to do is possibly return this as a valid hit along with the out hit, because then we can do whatever we want with the hit result. Rather than just send information out along here like for this one, we can just send the out hit and this return value. Yeah. So to do that, we need let's click on our player trace here, and then we want outputs of valid hit, and that's going to be a, click it again, a bool, and we want an out hit, and this is going to be a hit result. There we go. Oh, it's annoying when it does that. I always have to do it twice. No, I'm typing the wrong thing now. Hit result. There we go. Compile. So now we have all the information coming out of this on our return node. It automatically creates a return node. Sometimes you just have to look around and find it. So it automatically creates it. So there we go. We have a return node there. Our out hit and our valid. Let's just, there we go. Keeps them nicely in line. How nice is that? The only problem is when it comes out the other side, you need to do your check first. So do you know what? I want that at the top. I don't care if it crisscrosses in here. You won't see this. So we can, in theory, I'm not going to delete this yet. I'm going to just break this link, and this link, because I know what they go to. And I'm going to just break this link and this link. Okay, so now we're not going into our trace. Okay, we're now going to run our function. So what did we call it in here? A player trace. Yeah, player trace. I was going to rename it then, but we'll leave that. So we'll come out and we'll go player trace, call function player trace. So even though it's not showing here as a function, it already is showing in when we try and build something off here. So we want to bring this all the way to here and connect that up there, and our valid hit to there and our out hit to there. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is, for now, I'm just going to, I'll tidy this up in a minute, but we'll just show you how it's working. We can leave that as visibility, because that's what this one does. There's going to be no need to change this, I don't think. So we'll just leave that as visibility, yeah? Whether we send the debug in or not is another question. We're sending it in there. I think we need to bring this in, the debug trace style. Why have I got it in the local variables on the root of this? I don't know. Is this oh, it is a function. The debug trace style. Yeah, we need to bring that in. So this is where we need to just double check a few things. So we've got the player trace channel. Yeah. Which we need to hook up. So bring that into here. So we know what we are tracing for. Let's just tidy this up a little bit so we can see it. Bring that to there, and then add another one sort of there. Okay, and then we need to bring in the debug trace style as well. So we're going to set that debug trace style. We're going to set that to either what we want, although it is here. We could just use the one that comes in. Yeah, we could just use the one that comes in, can't we? Debug draw trace. Yeah, we don't need to change that because that's just top level. That's fine. So, as you can see now, we have the visibility channel set there. Yeah. So, in effect, what I've done here, this change, by taking all that and moving it, should still work. Now, watch me prove myself all wrong. So we'll come along here, press, oh, not F1, 1 to get my tool going, and it doesn't work. Okay. Let's just double check. We get a trace channel, visibility, comes out with the out here valid hit, and our cabling tool comes out, runs a player trace on the visibility. It shouldn't make any difference. So here we go. Let's start checking what's going on. Let's turn it on. That's the tool, but it's not running the trace. So we can look at that now by going into our first person character cabling and enable the debug. And it's not letting me trace. Okay, that's fine. So why is that? So it comes in, checks if it's got a debug trace, doesn't matter. Oh, both of these need to go to there, don't they? Regardless. Is that how I did it in the cabling? Yeah, both of them need to go in. I wonder if that's what it was. because I had that unlinked because I haven't set a debug trace. No, I'm still not getting a trace, am I? What am I missing? Let's have a look. I have no clue. So, it's all base out the cabling. It's not getting to here, but I reckon it's getting to there. It is getting to there. So it's a trace hit is false. We're using the visibility channel. False. Hit result. Hit location. Trace start. Trace end. Oh! I've missed something. Something is broken when I've transferred this across. And I can't see what it is. And there it is. It's the trace length, isn't it? The trace distance. So it is working. Let's see, my fault. I didn't realise that hadn't transferred across. I do need that open, the builder and the base. So there we go. That has fixed that. I don't need to put any more stops on here. Let's get rid of that and get rid of that there, and let's get rid of, we don't need that print response because when I run it now it should be drawing the trace. See, now we have our trace working. I can turn this debug off and it's back to normal. So now all that code in the cable here is no longer needed. Okay, so we can just select all that, delete it, get rid of that, and we'll get rid of this. Ooh. There we go, delete, and just those, delete. This tidies this up no end now, because we just have one function that we can use to perform our checks. Just makes that little bit better. You know, doesn't make it fantastically better. It just makes it a lot less duplication of code, is what I'm going to say. A little bit more optimized, yeah? So, we'll just save that. We now have that working. We could actually do our check to see whether it's valid, yes or no there. But it's the same answer. So there's no need to do... Oh, yeah, we're still going to do the valid check when it comes out the other end. Otherwise, we're still going to have another variable saying, yeah, this is okay. So we don't need the cable tool anymore. We're now using the new trace. So all we need to do from here is play a trace. There we go. So now that is going to perform our player trace. What we need to do next is we need to know where we're tracing to, don't we? So where are we tracing to? And now are we going to be using, we've got all these, we don't need any all these acts. Are we checking if it's activated or not? Where are we doing that? I think we're doing that in our, yeah, let's reopen the cable tool. The only reason I'm going to is so we can check the on-tick event. See, what we could do is automatically call from the on-tick of the base, but let's not overcomplicate it too much. Let's be able to see what we're doing for the time being. So we'll come into here and we'll just go to our event tick, and here it is. So we're doing a parent event tick, even though there's nothing in there, and we're checking if it's activated. So if we just copy these and we put these into our tool, to our event tick. Yeah. Paste. Don't know why I keep trying to right click. Can't right click and paste in this. There we go. So this is our usual outputs here, activated. Always got to be checked on the event tick, otherwise it's not going to do anything. Yeah. So we've got that, and then we're doing our find target, and then we're going on to do whatever we want to do. So I'm going to leave that open though for now. I'll leave the tool base open in case we want to modify that a little bit more. So we're in our BPC builder, and what we want to do is we want to trace our build position. Yeah, only if we're activated. So what does this do? Well, this returns to us a position and whether it's a valid hit, but we can't do that without knowing what trace channel we want first, because the visibility channel is all of the channels. Now we want to use our new one. Now we can hard code this here to build allowed, or we can have it as a variable in the base. Okay, so we could put it in here, yeah, and we could call this, so if we call this it's not a debug, it's a control variable, so we'll add in default player trace, default trace channel. Now it doesn't mean we can't choose a different one in our doesn't mean we can't choose our own inside of here, but we're going to default it to visibility on this on the tool base, but we can change that then on the cabling and on there. So if we just show you that working on here, so find target, how are we're putting in there get default trace channel, yeah, and that's what we're going to use, and that should then make it so that this still works. Let's press play, my help, there we go, and that still works. Yeah, I do need to turn that off in the player character there, the cabling debug trace, because we know it works now. Okay, so it's still using the default trace. So what we're going to do though on the builder here inside this character, we can now change this default trace there. Where was we going to put that? It was going to put that into where's our, this is our base, isn't it? Default trace under debug. No, we don't want it under debug. No, it's under default, isn't it? We want it in, is it config or control? We'll put it under control for now. So over here in the category, we can put it under control. Yep, so that will appear then in the first person character. When we highlight it, it's in the control section here. So this one's going to be build allowed. Yep, we're only tracing for build allowed. Okay, and that's what this is going to do here. So if we just put in there get default trace channel there, so exactly what we did in the cable, yeah, and we sent through the player trace. We've done the same in the builder, sent it to the player trace, the default trace channel, which in the player is build allowed. So we need to return this data here. So to do that, we need to get our valid hit. So we need to do a branch. I keep doing that. Branch on valid hit. Yeah. If it's false, we just go get add return node, and it's going to be invalid. So we're not going to put anything in there. The transform we just have to ignore because it will be invalid. But if it's true, we want to break hit result, and then all we really need from here right now is the position it hit. Okay, and that is the hit impact point there. And as we can see, there is no transform. No, that's because we're not going to be working, we're not currently rotating an object. Maybe we don't need a transform. Maybe we can change that just location. Ooh, I can't spell location. And we're just going to change that to a vector, because we don't actually need that in here, because we could do the other code on the outside like we did on the other one. So all we need here is the impact point going there, but we only get that if it's true, and we could just pass the blocking hit through. There we go. Okay, so when that returns, it comes back to our event tick, and we can now do a branch on there. If it's true, yeah, we're going to print string, and we're going to just send the location to debug location, we'll call that. Let's just change the text color so we've got a little bit different. So not a greeny color. Well, that's no, maybe a darker blue. No, red. And green down, make it more red. Okay, so now our text will come up as red when it hits a hit. But now we need to activate this tool. Now we've got it in our player, but it's not activated. And how do we activate it? We get the press key here. Yeah, same thing as before. So we bring off this one and we go what did we call this? I think we had to just duplicate this. It just says oh, it's just an equals, isn't it? Equal. And this time we're going for keyboard number 2, and then we have another branch. So if it's not number 1, we'll come out and we'll branch again. So it first checks if it's the number 1. If it's not, it's now going to check the number 2, and we can do that for all of the we could do a different type of compare actually, but yeah, let's just bring that down to here. Now we're going to get current tool is valid and all this. What I could do is I could change a variable that would switch between slots, but for now I'm just going to use this here, yeah, and the only thing I'm going to change is to put the cabling tool in as the current tool. So it's all going to be exactly the same as this, yeah. Paste that in there, and then we bring the true down to here, and all we've got to do is replace that there. Well, let's just delete it and we'll just bring that in to there, and we'll bring it in to there and get rid of that one. So that should change to a different tool, and we're going to set this tool to debug, and the debug trace is going to be for duration, and the trace duration is going to be 1. Okay, we could have added the color in there so we just know it was a different one, but let's just see if we can now activate our second trace. So number 2, and there we do. Number 2 is now returning a location on a hit, but it's ignoring that building there. Look, it's completely ignoring it. The hit's underneath it. Say it's going straight through them, but it's nothing there. But here it's getting hits, and it's showing us exactly where it is. As you can see, even though I'm hitting above the ground, well, I'm not hitting above the ground because this isn't detecting as a hit. Only the floor is. That's why you can't see that red marker, because it's underneath the building. Well, it's underneath the generator. So now we have a way of detecting the ground, Object detection here. We could use the same visibility channel and just detect the object types, but that could be a lot of different object types. So the easiest way, I think, is to detect the floor and then detect a collision when we spawn a temporary object for placement. Okay, so there we go. We have a second tool, and that second tool is ready now to be programmed as a building object. Yeah, so it's exactly the same thing. We've optimized our tool base, and now we've got a new tool which we can now use to determine a location for placement. So in the next episode, I am going to set it up so that we can detect a grid. Actually, it's easier than you would think. It's just understanding the logic behind it. It's just a little bit of maths, but it's not difficult, and I'll explain it as I go along. So anyway, unfortunately, there's not a lot into that one yet. It's just optimization of our tool and starting the base of our new tool for building. But in the next episode, hopefully we'll get the grid done and maybe start putting an object on the ground, even if it doesn't check for collision. So I hope you found that interesting enough, and I hope you're following along okay, and hopefully I will see you in the next episode. So take care. Bye.